Hey everybody, Jason here. Just getting ready to leave work, and I felt like being a little creative and talking to everybody and doing another video, and I wasn't sure again what to talk about because I'm usually never sure what to talk about. But I was thinking recently about I've never played or read Blades in the Dark, I believe by John Harper. However, I've wanted to. I've heard it's a fantastic book and it's a great read and it's a good game and everything. I've just never had a chance to read it. But someday that will hopefully change. But from what little I know of the book and the setting, it takes place in the city of Duskval. And it's literally just the city. I don't think the characters can leave the city. I think it's enclosed, blocked off, and there are storyline reasons why that is the case. And also, I recently rewatched Dark City, which is one of my favorite movies ever. I love Dark City by Alex Proyas, and that takes place in one walled-off city. And for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, I won't spoil it for you. Turn this video off right now and go watch Dark City and watch the director's cut. It's similar to Blade Runner in that they took out some of the beginning narration that gives away some of the storyline. But the whole movie takes place within one city, and I was thinking to myself a little bit about how that might be beneficial to an RPG group or a story or characters or like a adventure or a short campaign or something where your characters, for one reason or another, cannot leave where they're at, like whether it be a city or a small island or something to that effect. Like they can't leave the civilization that they're in. And while it might sound like it's limiting, like you can't venture off into other kingdoms and visit other lands and places and stuff, what it could do, instead of limiting you, it could give you a little bit of freedom. In the idea that you have to pay a lot of attention to your characters. The role-playing in them could become very, very important, because if you have certain factions or governments or businesses or acquaintances or opponents or guilds for that matter, or whatever the case may be, or certain social groups or factions or parties or whatever that you have to interact with, you can't just go willy-nilly murder hoboing across the city and sorry, I'm letting somebody go, and making enemies of everyone. You can't just break into everybody's houses and steal stuff. You can't just mow down hordes of enemies and do lots of, combat obviously is an option, maybe a little less lethal combat, depending on how the law views that sort of thing. But so if you're stuck in a city, you have to pay attention to what you're doing as a character. You have to watch your interactions with people socially. If you make an enemy of someone, it's not like you can just leave town and avoid them from then on, or whatever. You got to pay attention to what's going on. You have to pay attention to what you're doing, who likes you, who doesn't like you, who has your back, who doesn't have your back, what factions that you align yourself with, and what factions you come to have quarrels with or differences with. So it might sound like it's limiting, but I think there also might be a certain freedom in terms of being able to let loose your role playing rather than just your dice rolling, that type of role playing, and kind of make a character out of it. Don't let that inhibition, that not an inhibition, that's probably not the right word. Don't let that restriction dictate how limited your game might be. You know, if you're working for the king's guard, or if you're working for the king himself, for example, or whatever the lord of the city is, you know, there could be other things that you do for that king or that group in town that might have other people working against it, or other factions that have differing opinions or views or end goals. And you just really have to, and I know I'm starting to ramble here because I've got a thought, but I'm not sure how to articulate it and get it out. You gotta, everything becomes more intimate. You don't have just random clans of goblins and orcs that you're fighting and breaking into their caves and running through dungeons and stuff like that. There's a lot of political and not necessarily political, but just personal intrigue and social conflict and things like that can happen, and it can make lethality and combat in general much more important, because you can't just do something or kill a bunch of people or bandits or whatever out in the wilderness and leave their bodies behind to rot into the earth and go back from where they came. You know what I mean? Somewhere someone's gonna find whoever you killed in a city that has no way of, you know, not a lot of hiding spots. One way or another, what you do will become known by someone, and that can be good for you or bad for you, depending on who it is and how the story plays out. So, sorry that I'm rambling so much. Like I said, I've got this idea in my head of how this could be awesome, but I'm having a real big problem articulating it. I guess you'd have to come up with all sorts of, you'd have to come up with a city or a town or whatever, why you wouldn't be able to leave this place, what's holding you back from leaving, physically leaving, and you'd have to create factions, you'd have to create leaders of the city, you'd have to create guilds or other social plot points to interact with, and repercussions for things. You'd have to think about repercussions for your characters with breaking laws or violence or theft, or, you know, say you're good guys and you are part of the watch, the town watch, or a group of constables or whatever you are. You come across some crimes and you thwart something, and all of a sudden some crime bosses that you didn't know existed because they're deep underground and have contacts within the government, you're interfering with what they're doing. And if you start interfering with what the government's doing, coincidentally, not on purpose, but who you think might be good people might have ulterior motives that are less than good. You know, some shady people want to do some shady things. So you never know who you're going to be interrupting, or whose work you're going to mess up, or whose money you're going to interfere with, because money and power almost go hand in hand when it comes to the government and political stuff and shady businesses and merchant guilds, thieves guilds, stuff like that. So I think there's a lot of potential for a game set in a confined area that you have no escape from. You can only run so far before whoever's following you will catch up to you. You can't run forever because there's only so many places to run, and there's only so many places to hide. So you gotta watch whose toes you step on. You gotta watch whose pockets you line. You gotta watch your back every step of the way. You gotta be very careful. But have any of you people played a scenario like that, or an adventure like that, where you're confined to a certain area and the game becomes more social? Not to leave out combat by any means, but something where combat like that would mean more, because again, it's not just random bandits or orcs or whatever out in the field that you're slaying and leaving the bodies to rot and taking their leather armor and scimitars and going and trading them in at the local, shop to get a couple of gold coins to pay for the inn for the night. But let me know if any of you people have played anything cool like that. That sounds very interesting. See how it worked. And if you did, what game system was it in, and how did it work? But again, that was just a quick little idea. That was another 10 minutes of me rambling almost about nothing and trying to get some sort of coherent thought, which is not easy for me to do. But anyway, thanks for everybody for watching and tuning in all the time and listening to me ramble. So hope you guys are having a good day and good gaming and good games, and we will see you later. Bye.